There was a time when Europe stood on the edge of another great war, not because of a single battle, not because of a sudden invasion, but because of something that, at first, seemed almost insignificant. A few churches, a few sacred places, and a question who truly controlled them. In the mid-19th century, the world was already tense. Empires were watching each other closely, waiting, calculating, and among them, one empire believed it was destined for more. Russia. They looked at the Ottoman Empire, a once powerful force now slowly weakening, and saw opportunity. To them, it wasn't just about religion. It was about influence, territory, and power. Because if they could control Constantinople, they wouldn't just gain land, they would gain a gateway between continents. At first, the tension stayed quiet. Diplomats spoke. Letters were sent. Demands were made. But beneath those words, something much more dangerous was growing. Russia issued an ultimatum. The Ottomans refused. And just like that, the first move was made. Russian troops crossed into Ottoman lands. There was hesitation at first. No one was sure how far this would go. But then something happened. Something that changed everything. A devastating naval attack. An entire fleet destroyed. It was no longer a regional conflict. Now, the world was watching. Britain and France had a choice. Stay out of it, or step into a war that could reshape Europe. They chose war. By early 1854, alliances had formed. Lines were drawn, and what started as a dispute over religious sites had become one of the largest conflicts Europe had seen in decades. The plan seemed simple. Strike at Crimea. Destroy Russia's naval power. End the war quickly. But war is never that simple. When British and French forces arrived, they didn't land at a fortified port. They landed on an open beach. Unprotected. Exposed. Vulnerable. And yet, no attack came. It was a moment that would define the war. A missed opportunity. A silent mistake. Because once the Allied forces were fully landed, there was no turning back. They marched inland. And soon, they met Russian forces. At a place called Alma. The battle was fierce. Smoke filled the air. Commands were lost in the chaos. Men advanced. And fell. And when it was over, Russia had suffered a heavy defeat. But the war didn't end there. Instead of collapsing, Russian forces pulled back, not in defeat, but to prepare. Because ahead of them stood Sevastopol, a city that would soon become the center of everything. A city that would turn this war into something far more brutal, far more costly than anyone had imagined. And as the Allied armies approached its gates, many believed the end was near. They were wrong. Because the real war had only just begun.